Hi, my name is Gourmet. In this video, we talk about the strength of Resto Shaman on PTR, specifically in Mythic Plus in Operation Floodgate. I got to play it this weekend alongside a bunch of other healers, and I have to say that Resto Shaman was one of my favorite, smoothest, and easiest to play, especially in a learning environment. Of course, Resto Shaman, like all the healers, has gotten a lot of changes, so I'm going to go over those again before I talk about how much I enjoyed it, just to give you a little bit of a refresher in case you haven't seen the blue post. So the biggest changes that came for Resto Shaman in 11.1 are going to be reduced button bloat. So everyone knows Restoration Shaman has so many buttons, and a lot of them are CVs that you're basically like pressing in conjunction with each other. And they're doing a good job of kind of like downsizing those so you don't have to worry about tracking and pressing so many things at once. The first thing is that they're getting rid of the button ancestral guidance completely. Now this has gone for all three specs, which sucks for the other specs, but for Shaman it's honestly probably fine. It just means that you don't have to press it whenever you were pressing Ascendance before, because that's basically all you were doing. It was just something that you were just mindlessly pairing with your Ascendance. The other thing that they're getting rid of is Mana Tide Totem. They're not actually getting rid of it. Instead, they're making it so that whenever you press Healing Tide Totem, it triggers your Mana Tide Totem with the same effect. So again, you're still getting the same use out of it. You can even get the CDR from the Healing Tide talent that makes it come up more often if you want to do that. And it's pretty nice because it's just one less thing that you have to press. The other button that they're getting rid of is Primordial Wave. This has instead been replaced with another talent that is a passive that makes it so that 10% of every healing wave that you cast gets duplicated onto every single person who has a Riptide. So obviously, this is something probably that's more geared towards Raid than Mythic Plus. So it wasn't really something that I tried in Mythic Plus and is not something I'm going to be addressing. There are quite a few talents that seem like Blizzard wants Resto Shaman in Raid to lean more into a Riptide playstyle like they used to have like back at the beginning of Shadowlands. Remains to be seen if that's going to be the thing, but again, this video is mostly we talk about Mythic Plus, so I'm not going to talk that much about those talents. There are a host of other changes to the Resto Shaman talent tree, the first being that Healing Wave is no longer a talent, it's just something that you learn passively. So you do get one extra talent point back because of that. However, it doesn't feel like you get an extra talent point because they made Ancestral Vigor cost 2 points instead of 1 in order to get the same effect. So it's kind of net neutral. Another change is that Mana Tide Totem, again, Mana Tide Totem is now baked into Healing Tide Totem. However, that talent is now on a choice node, so you can take the Mana Tide that triggers with Healing Tide, or instead you can take this talent that makes it so that whenever you press Healing Tide Totem, your next 3 healing surges are instant cast and cost 50% less mana. So if there's a fight, or often in Mythic Plus where you feel like you don't actually need the extra mana from Mana Tide Totem and you want to have access to some extra on-demand healing, this could be a really good choice for you. There's also some nice quality of life changes if you'd like to do that. This one is Therazane's Resilience. So this one makes it so that your Earth Shield and your Water Shield never lose stacks. So if you don't like having to refresh those throughout a dungeon or a fight, whatever it is, you can go ahead and take this talent. It's not very powerful, but if you're feeling lazy and you don't like refreshing them, this wouldn't hurt to take. And the other one is now that Downpour, you used to only have 12 seconds after you put down your totem in order to trigger it, and now you have 22 seconds. So the totem lasts 24 seconds, you have 22 of the 24 seconds that the totem lasts in order to trigger that Downpour, which gives you a little bit more wiggle room if you're having trouble during the fight, making sure you always have healing rain up, but also making sure you're going to have Downpour where you wanted it at the same time. So for the tier stats, if you aren't familiar, every single healer basically has the same 2-set, which is your heals have a chance to apply this buff called Insurance, which does healing if the ally falls below a certain threshold of health. The difference is, though, that every healer has a bit of a different 4-set. So with Shamans, of course, it's easy to apply 2 at a time. Other healers do have better, more consistent ways to apply it more often and do a bit more like upfront insurance healing. However, the extra part of the 4-set that comes with the Shamans, which is where it buffs your next spell by 10%, I think is pretty powerful. And you're proccing enough that you're getting like at least 4 of these, if not closer to like 7 every single minute of having like your spells buffed by just by putting the insurance out. The actual insurance healing itself that shows up on the meters is a little bit lower for Resto Shaman than other healers, but I think the 4-set more than makes up for it and definitely feels pretty good inside Mythic Plus. As far as the actual Restoration Shaman gameplay that I was experiencing in Operation Floodgate, it felt very smooth and very easy in comparison to some of the other healers I tested. It feels really similar to Season 1, where it has lots of on-demand healing, pretty decent damage, lots of kicks and stops and utilities that your group definitely is going to need inside of these dungeons. And I think it stands a good chance of maybe becoming meta. It has a lot of movement. There's a lot of movement in this new dungeon and in some of the other dungeons that are coming up as well. and it also has no trouble like living some of the bigger like one-shotty crazy mechanics, because if you played this last season, you saw that not a lot of people missing like timers had anything to do with them being like, oh, I didn't have like enough damage or whatever. Usually it had to do with like just them living, and I think Shaman itself doesn't have a hard time living, and it has no trouble usually keeping the group up. I think it does stand a chance of being meta this season, especially if Enhance and Elemental aren't in the meta. This is like one of the bigger things that pushed them out season 1, which is that Enhance was so powerful, and usually like the value of having a second Shaman is a lot worse when you already have one. You already have the mastery buff and all the original utility that one Shaman is bringing, but Shaman is so strong like as a class in the War Within that I could definitely see Shaman having a chance. Again, I'm not completely sure. It's way too soon to say, especially with this like the way tuning is and we haven't got to test all the dungeons, but I'm pretty optimistic about how it is. So yeah, if you've been thinking of what healer to main, I think Shaman is going to be another great choice, especially if you're someone who's just puggy a lot. Last season, Shaman was definitely the choice if you were still pugging. Even right now, if you're still pugging, Shaman is the best choice for Mythic Plus, and I definitely do not see that changing next year. So yeah, comment below what you think, especially if you've done any testing, and look out for my other videos on the other healers.